The love that defied expectations. Mia Carter had never been the type of woman to shrink herself to fit the world's expectations. She was bold, beautiful, and unapologetically herself. A proud, plus-size black woman, she had built her confidence over years of fighting against society's narrow definitions of beauty. But when she fell in love with Daniel Whitmore, the world had a lot to say about it. Daniel was a name that carried weight. He was the heir to the Whitmore fortune, a tech entrepreneur who had built his own multi-million-dollar empire outside of his family's influence. He was tall, strikingly handsome, with sharp blue eyes that could command attention in any room. And most importantly, he had a heart that saw beyond the surface. Their love story wasn't the fairy tale people expected. It wasn't a whirlwind romance fueled by glitz and glamour. It was built on genuine connection, deep conversations, and an unwavering respect for one another. Yet, despite the depth of their love, their relationship became a target for criticism the moment they went public. The backlash begins. It started subtly, side eyes at restaurants, whispers at industry events. Mia Carter, with Daniel Whitmore. She must have some magic spell on him. He could have any woman in the world. Why her? Then came the online scrutiny. When Daniel first posted a picture of Mia on his Instagram, his comment section exploded. "She's not what I expected for you, bro. You could do so much better. Is she your charity project?" Mia had braced herself for it, but what she hadn't expected was the backlash from Daniel's inner circle. His mother, Victoria Whitmore, was the first to express her disapproval. A woman of refinement and control, she had spent her life curating the perfect image for the Whitmore name. Daniel, the golden child, was supposed to marry a woman of high society, elegance, and appropriate stature. And to Victoria, Mia was none of those things. The first time they met, Mia could feel the chill in the air. Victoria had greeted her with a polite but forced smile, her gaze scanning Mia as if she were an unfamiliar artifact in an art gallery, something to be observed, but never fully accepted. As the evening wore on, Victoria's passive-aggressive comments became clear. "You're very confident, aren't you, dear?" she said over dinner, her tone laced with hidden meaning. "Confidence is important," Maya replied smoothly, "especially when the world expects you to doubt yourself." Daniel squeezed Mia's hand under the table, but the tension was undeniable. His friends weren't much better. At a high-profile gala, one of Daniel's oldest friends, Ethan, pulled him aside. "Listen, man, I'm happy if you're happy, but..." He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "You've built an empire. You have an image. You sure she fits into that?" Daniel's jaw tightened. Mia isn't something to fit. She's a person. And the best one I know. Ethan sighed. "I just don't want you to regret this, that's all." Daniel didn't even bother responding, because the only regret he had was letting people think their opinions mattered. The proposal that shocked everyone. Despite the criticism, Daniel's love for Mia only grew stronger. He loved the way she carried herself, not just with confidence, but with kindness and depth. Mia wasn't just beautiful. She was brilliant. She had built her own career as a motivational speaker, helping women embrace their self-worth in a world that tried to diminish them. She worked with young girls, mentoring them to believe that beauty was not a size, but a state of mind. Daniel had never met anyone like her. So when he proposed, it wasn't in some over-the-top display for the world's approval. It was intimate, just the two of them on the balcony of their home, the city lights twinkling in the distance. As he knelt down, holding a ring that symbolized everything they had been through, he whispered, "I don't care what the world says. I don't care what my family thinks. I love you, Mia Carter, and I want to spend my life proving it." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes. She had spent her whole life fighting for her worth. But with Daniel, she never had to. She said yes. The storm that tested their love. The first year of marriage should have been a honeymoon phase, a time of joy, exploration, and deepening love. For Mia Carter Whitmore and Daniel Whitmore, It was something else entirely. It was a battlefield. Outside their home, the world scrutinized their every move. The media twisted their love story into a sensationalized spectacle, painting Mia as a lucky nobody who had stumbled into wealth. Daniel's family distanced themselves, hoping their little experiment would come to an end. Even in their careers, both of them faced subtle, but undeniable, barriers. Mia, a renowned motivational speaker, began receiving fewer invitations to elite events. Some of her sponsorship deals mysteriously fell through. Daniel, a tech mogul, started noticing hesitations in business negotiations, partners who rescheduled meetings, investors who suddenly had concerns. It was never overt. It was the kind of exclusion that whispered, "You don't belong here." But Daniel and Mia had never been the kind to back down, until the day everything nearly fell apart. The breaking point. It started with a leak. One morning, Mia woke up to an avalanche of headlines flooding social media. Daniel Whitmore's NNERSRTLE tried to bully him, but he didn't listen. Emily A. Carter Whitmore, she really the woman for him. EXTLU is IV. Fang ILOINSIDER. RVAL is the TURMOIL in THA Whitmore Sealan. Mia's hand shook as she scrolled. Inside the article were anonymous quotes from people who knew Daniel personally. He changed after he met her. It's like she isolated him. The marriage isn't what people think it is. I just hope he wakes up before it's too late. Mia stopped breathing when she saw the last quote. His mother has been heartbroken ever since the wedding. It's no secret she tried to guide him toward better choices. Maybe one day he'll listen. It was clear. Victoria Whitmore, Daniel's mother, had leaked the story. She had done the one thing Mia feared most. She had made Daniel choose. The argument that changed everything. Daniel found Mia in their home office, staring blankly at the article. He could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she gripped her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Mia, did you see it?" Her voice was too calm. "Did you see what they're saying?" Daniel exhaled sharply. "It's garbage. We both know that." Mia let out a hollow laugh. "Do we? Because it sure looks like your family is determined to destroy me." Daniel's expression hardened. "They're not my family anymore if they think they can attack you." Mia's eyes snapped to his. "Don't say that." "Why not?" "They made their choice." Mia shook her head, stepping away from him. "Daniel, I don't want to be the reason you lose your family." He took a step toward her. "You're not. They are." Mia looked at him, eyes full of something Daniel had never seen before. Doubt. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Because I feel like I've ruined everything." Daniel's heart ached. This is what they wanted. They wanted Mia to question her place. They wanted her to second-guess the love they had built. But Daniel refused to let them win. He reached for her hands, gently prying the phone from her fingers. "Mia, look at me." She hesitated, but when their eyes met, he said the words she needed to hear the most. "You didn't ruin anything. You saved me." Mia's breath hitched. "Saved you?" Daniel nodded. "Before you, I lived in a world where I had to be perfect all the time, where I was told what kind of person I was allowed to love to be. You showed me what real happiness looks like, and I'm not giving that up." Mia's walls finally broke. She buried her face in his chest, the weight of the world pressing down on her. Daniel wrapped his arms around her, holding her like a lifeline. And in that moment, Mia made a choice. She wouldn't let them break her. The turning point. If Victoria Whitmore wanted to start a war, she had just picked a battle she couldn't win. Mia reclaimed her power. She released a statement, not defensive, not angry, but strong and clear. "Love is not a competition. It's not a trophy to be won. My husband and I are not here to fit into society's expectations. We are here to live our truth. If that bothers some people, That's their burden to carry, not ours. Her words went viral. Women from all over the world flooded the comments. Mia, you are an inspiration. Keep shining. I can't believe people think it's okay to attack a woman for not being good enough for a man. You are enough. Love doesn't come with size restrictions. Thank you for speaking up. Even some of Daniel's business partners privately reached out. Respect. Man. Takes guts to stand up for what's real. Victoria, seeing the tide turn, tried to backtrack. She called Daniel, playing the role of the concerned mother. I never meant to hurt you, she said softly. I was just worried. Daniel's voice was cold. No, Mom. You meant to control me. But that stops now. Victoria Whitmore had lost her grip. And she knew it. The marriage that grew stronger. 2 years later, the same people who doubted them were forced to eat their words. Mia's motivational speaking career skyrocketed, her story empowering women globally. Daniel's business thrived, proving that success had nothing to do with fitting an outdated mold. And Victoria? She had no choice but to watch from the sidelines, because the woman she once dismissed as not good enough had become unstoppable. And the love she tried to destroy, it only grew stronger. A ghost from the past returns. Mia and Daniel had finally found their rhythm. The chaos from the first year of marriage, the relentless criticism, the family betrayals, the headlines dissecting their every move, had settled. They had proven to the world that their love wasn't a mistake. It was unshakable. Until the letter arrived. And with it, a storm that threatened to unravel everything. The letter that shook her. It came in an unmarked envelope. Mia found it in their mailbox, tucked between bills and invitations. There was no return address, just her name in sharp, bold ink. Mia's stomach twisted. She had spent years leaving her past behind, burying the ghosts that haunted her. But as she unfolded the letter, the past found her anyway. Mia, I never stopped looking for you. I knew one day I'd find you. And here we are. It's time we talk. Before it's too late. You know who I am. Mia's hands shook as she read those last words. You know who I am. She did. And that terrified her more than anything. A secret she never told Daniel. Mia sat frozen in the kitchen, staring at the letter for what felt like hours. She should have seen this coming. She should have known that the one thing she never spoke about would one day come back for her. Daniel walked in, fresh from a meeting, looking at her with a warm smile. But the second he saw her face, that smile disappeared. Mia, what's wrong? She wanted to tell him. She wanted to trust him with everything. But this was a wound so deep it had never fully healed. So she did something she had never done before. She lied. Nothing, baby, just a little tired. Daniel studied her, concern deep in his eyes. Mia forced a smile, one she had perfected over the years. I'm okay. But she wasn't. Not even close. The past she couldn't escape. That night, while Daniel slept peacefully beside her, Mia lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Memories she had locked away came flooding back. 12 years ago. She was just 17, a girl with big dreams, but no place to turn. And he had found her. Marcus Holloway, the man who once claimed to love her. The man who had made her believe she was worthless without him. The man who had nearly destroyed her. Mia had escaped him. She had clawed her way out of that darkness, built herself from the ground up. And now, after all these years, he had found her again. But why? And more importantly, what did he want? A dangerous meeting. Mia knew she should tell Daniel. But something inside her, the fear, the shame, kept her silent. Instead, she did something reckless. She met Marcus alone. They met in a dimly lit cafe on the outskirts of town. Mia sat by the window, heart pounding as she watched the door. And then he walked in. Marcus Holloway. The same piercing eyes. The same confident smirk. But time had changed him. His once youthful charm had hardened into something colder, more dangerous. He slid into the seat across from her, his gaze locking onto hers. "It's been a long time, Mia." She forced herself to keep her voice steady. "Not long enough." Marcus chuckled, leaning forward. "Still got that fire, I see." Mia clenched her fists beneath the table. "What do you want?" Marcus tilted his head, studying her like a predator sizing up its prey. "Come on, Mia. Let's not play games. You owe me." Her blood ran cold. Owe him? Mia didn't owe him a damn thing. But the way he said it, it was a threat. The ultimatum. Marcus slid a folded document across the table. Mia hesitated before picking it up, unfolding it with trembling fingers. And then her world tilted. It was a legal claim. Marcus was suing her. For defamation. For damaging his reputation. For spreading false claims. Mia laughed bitterly. "You're insane. I've never even spoken your name in public." Marcus shrugged. "Doesn't matter. You know how these things go. Even if I don't win, the lawsuit alone will drag your name through the mud." Mia felt her chest tighten. He was blackmailing her. Marcus leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Or, we could make this all go away." Mia's skin crawled. She didn't even have to ask what he meant. The way he looked at her, the way he always tried to control her, told her everything. He wanted her back. Back under his control. Back in his prison. Mia's entire body burned with rage. She had fought too hard to be free. She had built a life, a career, a marriage that she wouldn't trade for anything. She wasn't that girl anymore. She stood up, staring Marcus down. "You don't scare me anymore." Marcus chuckled, unfazed. "We'll see." And just like that, he walked away, leaving Mia in the wreckage of her past. The lie that could ruin everything. Mia drove home in silence. Her mind spun in 1,000 directions. She had two choices. Tell Daniel everything. Trust him. Face this together. Keep the secret. Handle it herself. The old Mia, the one Marcus had broken, would have chosen silence. But she wasn't that girl anymore. Mia parked in the driveway and took a deep breath. She was going to tell Daniel. She was going to trust him. But when she stepped inside, she saw Daniel on the phone, his expression dark. "I don't care what she says, Mom. Maya is my wife, my family. And if you can't accept that, I don't need you in my life." Mia's heart clenched. Daniel was still fighting his own battles. Could she really burden him with hers? So when Daniel turned to her with a smile, asking, "How was your day, baby?" Mia did the one thing she swore she wouldn't. She lied. It was fine. And just like that, the storm she tried to outrun had only just begun. The consequences of secrets. Secrets were like cracks in glass. Small at first, almost invisible, but with enough pressure, they spread until the entire thing shatters. Mia never wanted to lie to Daniel. She had promised herself. Their love was built on honesty. But that night, when he asked how her day was, she had smiled and lied right to his face. And with that, the first crack had formed. She convinced herself she was protecting him. She told herself, "I can handle this. I don't need to drag him into my past." But the thing about secrets is, they always find a way out. And this one, it would nearly destroy them. The weight of a hidden truth. The days following her meeting with Marcus were a blur. Mia moved through life like a woman carrying an invisible weight, smiling at gala events, giving empowering speeches, and attending business meetings, all while looking over her shoulder. Every morning, she checked their mailbox, praying another letter wouldn't come. Every night, she lay awake, watching Daniel sleep, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life by keeping this from him. And then the first sign of trouble arrived. It wasn't a letter this time. It was a lawsuit, delivered to Whitmore Enterprises, filed against Daniel. Daniel discovers the lie. Daniel was in the middle of a high-stakes meeting when his assistant walked in, face pale. "Sir, we have a situation." He barely glanced up. "Can it wait?" She hesitated. "It's a legal issue, and it involves your wife." That got his attention. Within minutes, he had the lawsuit in his hands. Plaintiff, Marcus Holloway. Defendant, Daniel Whitmore. The claim, defamation and intentional interference. Daniel's heart pounded as he read the details. Marcus was accusing Daniel of damaging his reputation through false claims made by his wife. He claimed Mia had spread lies about him, and Daniel's influence had only amplified them. But what truly shook him wasn't the lawsuit itself. It was the date on the document. The case had been filed over a week ago. Meaning, Mia had known, and she hadn't said a word. The confrontation. When Daniel got home, Mia was in the kitchen, absent-mindedly scrolling on her phone. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, baby." Daniel tossed the legal papers onto the counter. "What the hell is this?" Mia's smile vanished. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the lawsuit, scanning the words, even though she already knew what it was. "Daniel, No." His voice was sharp, cutting. "No excuses. No half-truths. Just tell me the truth, Mia." Mia swallowed hard. She had prepared 1,000 explanations in her head. But now, looking into Daniel's hurt, betrayed eyes, none of them felt good enough. "I didn't want to worry you," she admitted softly. Daniel's jaw clenched. "That's not an answer. I was going to tell you." "Weigh in." His voice rose slightly. "When we were standing in court, when it was too late to fight back." Mia's throat tightened. "I was scared." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "Scared of what?" "Scared that I'd leave you. Scared that I wouldn't fight for you." Mia felt the sting of his words. That wasn't it. She knew Daniel would fight for her, but she wasn't afraid of losing him. She was afraid of what he would do to Marcus. Daniel was a good man, but he wasn't weak. When it came to the people he loved, there was a fury inside him that few had ever seen. If he had known about Marcus sooner, she wasn't sure what he would have done. And that terrified her. The night that changed everything. That night, for the first time in their marriage, Daniel slept in the guest room. Mia lay in their bed, staring at the empty space beside her, feeling the crushing weight of her mistake. The next morning, she found him in his office reviewing the case. His face was unreadable, distant. Mia stood at the doorway, hesitating. "Daniel." He didn't look up. "I hired a legal team. They'll handle this." She felt a lump in her throat. "Can we talk?" His eyes finally met hers, but they weren't filled with the warmth she was used to. "You lied to me." Mia's heart shattered. "I didn't mean to." "But you did." He leaned back in his chair, voice calm but cold. "And now, I don't know if I can trust you." Those words cut deeper than any insult could. Mia opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time since she met him, she felt like she was losing him, and it was her fault. The unexpected twist. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, they did. Because 2 days later, something happened that changed everything. Marcus disappeared. Gone. No trace. His lawyers, confused. His associates, silent. And then, an anonymous text arrived on Mia's phone. "Marcus won't be bothering you anymore." Her blood ran cold. There was only one person powerful enough to make Marcus vanish. Daniel. Mia rushed into his office, heart racing. "Daniel, what did you do?" He looked at her, calm, unshaken. And then he simply said, "I protected you." When love and war collide, a fractured marriage. The tension between Mia and Daniel had settled into their home like a storm cloud, thick, heavy, and unrelenting. They spoke in carefully chosen words, their conversations clipped and cold. Even when they were in the same room, they felt like strangers. For the past 2 years, Their love had been unshakable. But now, the cracks were spreading faster than she could repair them. And then there was the text. "Marcus won't be bothering you anymore." Those words had haunted her for days. And the terrifying part, Daniel had refused to deny it. Confrontation in the dark. Mia couldn't take it anymore. That night, she found him in his study, staring at his laptop, his jaw tight. "Tell me the truth, Daniel." Her voice trembled. "Did you make him disappear?" He didn't react right away. Just a slow inhale, as if he had been expecting this. Then he finally looked at her. "What exactly do you think I did, Mia?" She swallowed. "Did you pay someone to threaten him? Did you hurt him?" His silence was louder than an answer. Mia's chest tightened. "Oh my God." Daniel's expression darkened. "You really think I would do that?" "I don't know what to think anymore." Her voice cracked. "The man who promised to always be honest with me is keeping secrets." Daniel stood up, his height towering over her. "And what about your secrets, Mia? You knew about Marcus for weeks and didn't say a word." Tears burned her eyes. "I was scared." "So was I." His voice softened, but his anger remained. Mia clenched her fists. "I want the truth, Daniel. No more half answers." He exhaled sharply. Then, in a voice so quiet yet powerful, he said, "I didn't hurt Marcus, but I made sure he would never come after you again." Mia's stomach twisted. "What does that mean?" His gaze was unreadable. "It means he's out of the picture." That wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Mia shook her head. "I need more than that." Daniel's eyes darkened. "You don't." And just like that, the conversation was over. The unexpected revelation. The next morning, Mia felt like she was living in a nightmare. She couldn't trust her husband. She couldn't stop thinking about Marcus. And worst of all, she had no answers until the news report aired. She was pouring coffee when the voice on TV made her freeze. "Marcus Holloway, a well-known businessman, has been reported missing." His last known location was a downtown bar where security footage shows him leaving with two unidentified men. Authorities are investigating possible foul play. Mia's cup slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor. Daniel walked in at that exact moment. Their eyes met, and in that moment she knew. He knew more than he was saying. Hunting for the truth. Mia didn't waste time. That afternoon, while Daniel was at work, she made a decision. She was going to find out exactly what happened to Marcus, and she knew exactly where to start. There was only one person Daniel trusted with things he didn't want traced back to him. Ethan Carter, Daniel's right-hand man, his fixer. Mia had met him only a handful of times, a quiet, unreadable man with a calculating stare. If anyone knew the truth, it was him. The meeting that changed everything. Mia met Ethan at a private club downtown, the kind where deals were made behind closed doors. When she arrived, he was already there, sipping whiskey like he had all the time in the world. She sat across from him, her heart pounding. "Tell me what happened to Marcus." Ethan arched a brow. "You already know the answer." Mia leaned forward. "I want details." He studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "Daniel didn't order anything extreme, if that's what you're afraid of." Mia clenched her fists. "Then where is Marcus?" Ethan smirked. "Alive. Somewhere he can't hurt you anymore." Mia's breath caught. "You kidnapped him." Ethan shrugged. "We call it persuasion." Mia's stomach churned. "What did you do to him?" Ethan leaned in, lowering his voice. "Let's just say Marcus got a taste of what he put you through. A little fear, a little incentive, and he decided to take a very long vacation." Mia's hands shook. Ethan tilted his head. "Do you really think Daniel would let someone like Marcus walk away unscathed?" Mia's heart pounded. No. Daniel was protective, relentless. And now, she realized, he was also dangerous. The breaking point. That night, Mia sat in the car outside their home, gripping the steering wheel. For the first time in 2 years of marriage, she felt like she was sitting next to a stranger. A man she loved. A man who had built her up. A man who had now crossed a line she never thought he would. Could she still trust him? Could she live with what he had done? And most importantly, could she still love him the same way? Tears slid down her cheeks. She had never been more confused, terrified, and heartbroken. As she walked inside, Daniel was waiting for her in the living room. "Where were you?" His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Mia swallowed. "I know what you did." Silence. Then, Mia took a shaky breath. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Daniel." For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Pain. "Mia." He took a step forward. "Everything I did was for you." She wiped her tears. "I didn't ask for this, but you needed it." His voice was firm. "I wasn't going to let that man keep hurting you." Mia's heart ached. But she couldn't unsee what she now knew. Daniel wasn't just the man she loved. He was a man willing to bend the law, cross lines, and do whatever it took to protect what was his. And suddenly, she wasn't sure if she was his wife or his possession. She whispered, "I don't know who you are anymore." And with that, she turned and walked away, not knowing if she would ever come back. The price of power. A marriage built on secrets. Mia stared at the ceiling of their bedroom, her mind racing. The silence between her and Daniel was heavier than ever. He lay beside her, his breathing slow and even, but she knew he wasn't asleep. Neither of them had spoken since their last fight. "I don't know who you are anymore." Her words had lingered in the air like poison. Daniel had crossed a line. Marcus was gone. Not dead. Not hurt. But gone. Vanished. Erased from their world, as if he had never existed. And Daniel had done it in her name. To protect her. At least, that's what he told himself. But if that were true, then why did Mia feel like the one who needed protecting now? The warning. The next morning, Maya left the house early. She needed air, space, a moment to think. She walked aimlessly through the city, sipping her coffee when she suddenly felt it. A presence, someone watching her. A chill ran down her spine as she turned and locked eyes with a man sitting alone at a cafe table. A dark suit, an unreadable expression. But his gaze, it was a warning. He gestured for her to come closer. Mia hesitated. Then, heart pounding, she stepped toward him. "Mrs. Calloway," he greeted smoothly. She swallowed. "Who are you?" The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. A friend. A concerned one. Mia's grip tightened around her coffee cup. "Why are you watching me?" The man leaned forward. "You need to understand something. Your husband made a move he shouldn't have." Her stomach clenched. "You're talking about Marcus." "Marcus wasn't just some man trying to ruin you, Mrs. Calloway. He was connected. And now, people are asking questions." Mia's pulse roared in her ears. "Tell your husband he doesn't get to decide how this ends." A lump formed in her throat. She turned to walk away, but the man called out once more. "And Mrs. Calloway, if you don't take control of your own life, someone else will." A truth she couldn't ignore. Mia arrived home shaking. Daniel was already waiting for her, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "You left without telling me." She threw her bag onto the counter. "I didn't know I needed permission." His jaw tightened. "That's not what I meant." She exhaled sharply. "Someone approached me today." Daniel stilled. "Who?" Mia hesitated before repeating the man's words. "You don't get to decide how this ends." For the first time, she saw something flicker in Daniel's eyes. Fear. And that scared her more than anything. "Mia, listen to me." "No," she snapped. "You listen. I need the truth, Daniel. What did you really do to Marcus?" His silence was deafening. Her chest tightened. If you lie to me right now, I swear I'm walking out that door. Daniel clenched his fists, then exhaled. I had him removed. He's alive, but he won't be coming back. You mean you threatened him? Daniel's gaze didn't waver. I protected you. Mia's hands trembled. You keep saying that. But did I ever ask for this? His voice was quiet. I wasn't going to let him destroy you. Her breath hitched. Because that's when she finally understood. Daniel wasn't just fighting for her. He was fighting for control. The betrayal. Mia didn't know how long she sat there, staring at the floor. But then, her phone vibrated. A message. From an unknown number. She hesitated before opening it. And when she did, her blood ran cold. A photo of Daniel, sitting in a dark room, speaking to someone she never expected. Her father. Mia's entire body froze. Her father, the man who had abandoned her. The man who never cared. Daniel had told her he didn't know him, but he lied. Her fingers shook as she typed back. Who are you? A reply came instantly. Someone who thinks you should know the truth. She swallowed hard. Then another message came in. Ask your husband how long he's been watching you. The moment that broke everything. Mia slowly turned back to Daniel. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Did you know my father? Daniel's expression shifted, just for a second. But it was enough. He knew. Mia's heart shattered. How long, Daniel? Silence. Her vision blurred. How long have you been watching me? Daniel took a step forward. Mia, I can explain. She took a step back. Don't. Her chest tightened with realization. This wasn't fate. Daniel didn't just fall in love with her. He had found her, chosen her, watched her. And suddenly, she didn't know if their love had ever been real at all. The final choice. That night, Mia packed a bag. She wasn't leaving forever. Not yet. But she needed time. Space. Answers. As she zipped up her suitcase, she felt him watching her from the doorway. You really can't forgive me. His voice was quiet. Mia turned to face him. It's not about forgiveness. Daniel exhaled. Then what is it? Her throat tightened. It's about me. I need to find out who I am without you making all my choices. Daniel stepped closer. And if you don't come back. Tears burned her eyes. Then that's something we'll both have to live with. She walked past him, feeling the weight of his gaze on her back. But he didn't stop her. And maybe that was the biggest sign of all.